Hey there, I'm David Lemieux, and here to talk about, you're probably aware, Dave's Picks Volume 4, which, as you probably know, is a complete show from September 24th, 1976, at College of William and Mary in Williamsburg, Virginia. Gonna start it just by saying it's a great show. Run, don't walk to get this one because it is a good one. As all the Dave's Picks tend to do, it should sell out. So do pick it up when you get a chance, hopefully sooner than later. So I want to talk about the show, obviously, the music, which is great, the recording, all that kind of thing, but also talk a little context of what the Dead were up to at the time. Well, let's start with that. So, as you probably know, the Dead took off about 2 years, almost 2 years, year and a half, 2 years, October 74 through June of 76, with the exception of 4 shows in San Francisco in 1975, and recording, of course, Blues for Allah. And Jerry was busy with the Grateful Dead movie and things like that, and then they all had their own bands, but there was really no Grateful Dead activity aside from those few things for almost 2 years. Then in June 76 they came back, and they came back playing mostly only theaters. They started in Portland, Oregon, moved on to Boston and New York, Passaic, New Jersey, and Philadelphia and Chicago. Then a week in San Francisco at the Orpheum, a couple of stadium shows on the East Coast to start the month of August, and then about 6-7 weeks after those 2 shows, they came back to the East Coast for another very short tour, only about 10 days, September 23rd to October 3rd. And really terrific batch of shows. If you have Dick's Picks 20, you know them in particular on that one. The Syracuse show is just really top-notch Grateful Dead. And this is really up there, our William and Mary show with that type of material. And it's one of the most exciting shows I know from the era. But anyhow, a little more about the context. So they came back a few major changes. One, of course, Mickey was back in the band, so that was pretty darn big. They were no longer playing through the, I point back like I have a wall of sound by me, they're no longer playing through the wall of sound. They were playing through a smaller, I guess, rented PA. They just, the cost of bringing that wall of sound on the road virtually bankrupt them. So they were back on the road, much more streamlined. The original crew. Now, talk about the original crew. We'll get into that in a minute. But they also brought back a lot of material from early 70s, late 60s. They hadn't played in a while, Dancing in the Street with the new, as they call it, the disco arrangement. Cosmic Charlie was back, St. Stephen. They Love Each Other, but in a completely new arrangement from the peppier 73, 74 versions. So you get a material like that, then you get brand new material for the Dead. You got Might as Well, Lazy Lightning Supplication that Weir brought over from Kingfish, of course, and boy, a whole bunch of other, Mission in the Rain, even though it was on Jerry album, as was Might as Well. The Dead were playing that. So there was a lot of new material brought back in. Minglewood was brought back, which hadn't been played since 71. So there's a lot of material. So a lot of new stuff, and then of course a lot of old stuff. They weren't playing Dark Star. They kind of dropped that in 74. They didn't play that again until New Year's 78. But so that's the context of how the band was playing. Now I mentioned crew and personnel. This is a time of very heavy hearts in the Grateful Dead world. On this September tour, Labor Day weekend 1976, longtime crew member Rex Jackson was killed in a car accident over Labor Day. And by 1976, Rex was now the road manager. So his role in the crew had even elevated. A huge amount of respect by the Grateful Dead. So that was a huge loss to the Grateful Dead family. They'd gone through a lot of losses, obviously, Pigpen and people like that. And then to lose Rex, of course, less than a decade later, the Rex Foundation was founded by the Grateful Dead and friends in honor of Rex. Rex Foundation's still going strong. Check it out online, Rex Foundation. So Rex was now gone. So the band heads out on the road September 23rd with a show at Duke, which we don't have in the vault. We don't have the first show, September 23rd, but we have the second show, which is this William and Mary concert. A show that it defies adjectives. No, it's got a lot of good adjectives, which I'm sure I'll talk about while we're talking about the music, but it's kind of sunny out. it's a show that rocks start to finish. Quite literally, it rocks. It opens with a Chuck Berry song and ends with a Chuck Berry song. It opens with Promised Land, ends with Around and Around. But what's in between there, as good as those are, is some spectacular Grateful Dead music. We'll kind of go through it, the first set. So we open up with Promised Land. A minute or two in, the mix really gels. Now, Betty wasn't recording these shows. These are recorded by Dan Healy from his PA mix, and they sound fantastic. The better a hall sounds, the better a PA mix is going to sound, and clearly the William and Mary Hall at College of William and Mary was a very, very good sounding venue as far as a college basketball arena goes. And I say that because these tapes do sound magnificent. We'll put up a listening party, I'm sure, so check them out. Oh, here come the... You might see a bird fly by me in just about... There. Can you see him? That's an oyster catcher. We talked about them the last time we did one of these videos. They were really loud last time. They're beautiful sound, but someone once said, "Hey, Lemieux, you seem really distracted in these videos." Well, I am distracted. Look around, man. Of course I'm distracted. I'm focusing, but it's pretty beautiful. You get nice birds. You get a seagull flying by right there and landing in the water. I don't know if you can see that, but so anyhow, back to the music. So we got Promised Land opening up. By the end of the song, it's just nailed perfectly. When Jerry comes in on the closing verses and just really nailing it, you'll hear how good the mix is. It's the second song when you really realize you're in for a special show. Deal. And I've used this phrase before, but Phil is really attacking the bass, I find, on Deal, and he's really laying down this really hard bottom end that's really terrific. And the rest of the band comes in. Donna comes in. The Deal is outstanding. Cassidy also excellent. The third song, followed by Sugar-E. Now Sugar-E, interestingly enough, if you know Sugar-E from 72, 73, 74, you know it as this kind of nice mid-tempo song with no real big jams, but just beautiful. Jerry singing on his own. No background vocals and no big jams in between them. And it was in 76 when Jerry started playing it again with the Jerry Garcia Band, featuring Keith and Don, of course, that he really started stretching it out. And there's a version on the Garcia album called Don't Let Go, in which he really stretches it out. And that's when it really started becoming the Sugar-E we know as, the big jam vehicle in 77. And these ones in 76 weren't quite there yet. Dick's Picks Volume 3, a perfect example of what Sugar-E would become by 77 and really onward. We got there's one in 83 at Lake Placid that clocks in at close to 20 minutes, or I think over 20 minutes maybe. But that's what Sugar-E really was. And this is kind of the beginning of that. You get the beautiful kind of mid-tempo, beautiful song that you had in 72 to 74, but then you have it stretched out. And the third jam on this in particular, Jerry just really rips it open. And you get Sugar-E as it would become later in 77 and onward. So you get this great version of Sugar-E. Great Looks Like Rain. Now Looks Like Rain, again, with two drummers. Looks Like Rain went from this beautiful little Bob and Donna duet ballad thing to this powerhouse song. And it's a good Looks Like Rain. Row Jimmy next. I remember reading an interview with Jerry about, the question was, what was your favorite Grateful Dead song to play? And Jerry said that one of his favorite songs was Row Jimmy. And I thought, well, that's a weird, I like Row Jimmy, but that's a weird choice as one of your favorite songs. And I started listening a lot harder. I realized, there's so much going on in there. Jerry on the slide guitar, Bobby doing some great stuff, and just Jerry really having a blast. Check out this one. I'm going to say this a few times. Check out this show on headphones, and you'll hear in this Row Jimmy a lot of really amazing stuff going on. The Row Jimmy, followed by Big River, and then followed up by Tennessee Jet, a real foot-stomping Tennessee Jet. So we've kind of got this career overview so far. We've got older Dead, newer Dead, very recent Dead. And then the first set then ends with a one-of-a-kind jam, playing in the band, which is rare enough as a first set closer in 1976. It was very common, of course, in 72 to 74, but by 76, incredibly rare. You'll notice, if you don't look at the set list, well, I'm going to tell you what happens, but if you're listening to playing in the band here, you'll notice this very familiar melody start picking up. You're like, what's going on here? The first time I heard this what happened, I wasn't looking at the set list, and all of a sudden they kick into Supplication. just a spectacular transition. And then when supplication is done after 3 minutes or so, back into playing in the band jam. And this, as far as I know, is the only supplication played without Lazy Lightning. Of course, they did it as an instrumental supplication in the early 80s through the mid 80s. There was a 1993 attempt by Bob Weir on supplication at Shoreline. He just kind of picked it up and started kind of singing. But I wouldn't really call that a full version of supplication, as this one clearly is. So you get supplication going back into playing in the band to end the set. Now, if you were a kind of a newbie or a neophyte or really a non-deadhead at this concert, you might have thought this was the end of the show. They've played for 90 minutes. They've done everything you expect from the Dead, some rock and roll, some classic, some ballady kind of stuff, and then a huge, huge jam to end the show. And it's 90 minutes. A lot of rock concerts in the mid-70s till to this day are 90 minutes. So to have that kind of experience, including this play and supplication playing to end the first set, you might think that this was the end of the show, but there's so much more good stuff to come. So that ends the set. And then the second set begins, as a lot of the second sets begin on this tour, with 3 or 4 up to 5 shorter tunes, little tunes, no segues, and then a big jam. And that's what happens here. So we open up with Might As Well, very common second set opener at the time. Might As Well to open, followed by, and Might As Well's great, Might As Well. Samson and Delilah, ripping. I think we'll try and put Samson and Delilah up on a listening party because it's really good. Loser. Now, this is one of the most interesting losers I know because it's really mellow. It's as close to, I've never really thought of Loser as being a ballad, but this really falls into that category, which is not to say anything derogatory, but it's a great version of Loser. It's one of the most interesting ones I know because they bring the tempo beautifully down. Jerry sings it with such emotion. And then that is followed up by Minglewood. And this Minglewood, there's certain songs you hear and you remember where you were when you heard them. I was stuck in traffic about 10 years ago in San Rafael, California, just like 2 blocks from where Phil's Terrapin Crossroads is. And I was stuck in traffic, and this Minglewood came on my CD player in the car. And I remember, it's very short, it's 4.5 minutes, I think. And I remember thinking, that's one of the most concise, tight, but rocking versions of Minglewood. I'm a big fan of Minglewood, but this one, just something struck me about it. There was good swing to it. It was good. It was a really good Minglewood. So that's in here. So that kind of ends our beginning of the second set portion. The big jam is really, to me, one of the most interesting performance-wise. On paper, it's really cool, but performance-wise, it's one of the most exciting bits of Grateful Dead I know from this era. They open up the jam with Help on the Way, and not uncommon at the time. But it's a great version of Help on the Way and do a really nice version of Slipknot, which is pretty long. I think it's about 5 or 6 minutes. Nice, spacey, raunchy version of Slipknot that goes into drums, about 4 minutes of drums, a nice drum duet, 4 or 5 minutes. And then, slowly but surely, you'll notice Phil start picking things up really quietly, coming out of drums, but intense but quiet. And then the guitarists start coming in. You'll notice Jerry doing these great little runs and Bobby doing the same. And then Keith comes in, so the whole band's now out doing this thing, and all of a sudden you start hearing that familiar Slipknot ascending thing happening. And you're like, wow, this is cool. They're going to go back into Slipknot. But then the beat starts picking up, and the drummers start picking up on it. Oh. The drummers start picking up on it, and then Jerry starts picking up on it. And it was almost like they were teasing each other who could go fastest. So it was a Slipknot, which is a very intricate, that's a tough jam. It picks up steam. All of a sudden, it's the Slipknot riff, the melody is being played at double speed, and it's the most unique thing that I know of from 1976 in terms of them really trying something and succeeding. This is the kind of thing where throughout the Dead's career they try stuff like this all the time, and they sometimes succeed, but this one they succeed so perfectly. So Slipknot picks up steam, turns into this double speed Slipknot that's just goosebumps. Can you see those on this? Probably not. Just talking about goosebumps, and I've heard this thing like 100 times. So you've got the Slipknot that picks up, and then as they end it, Jerry hits these giant power chords, signaling that we've succeeded, that we landed, and then boom, where does it go? Obviously, right into Franklin's Tower, and this is one of, if not my favorite version of Franklin's Tower. I've been asked that question before. Hey, what's your favorite Franklin's? It's this one, and I'll tell you why. Franklin's Tower is a song I've always loved it, but it can drag. There's a version from the same tour that clocks in, I think it's 16 or 17 minutes long, just about a week, no, 3 days later in Rochester, New York, very long, over 15 minutes. And there's a few moments, it's great Franklin's, but there's a few moments that drag a little bit on that Franklin's. This one is short, it's under 9 minutes. And there's no drag whatsoever. It's a rock and roll, fast-paced, perfectly played. You know, it's one of these Franklin's Tower that you know is perfectly played when two crows fighting over a peanut, believe it or not. It's the Peanut Gallery. And yes, I'm easily distracted. So the Franklin's Tower, when I know a Franklin is good, when Jerry sings the line, if you get confused, listen to the music play. And when he goes straight into a monster solo right out of there, you know, it's the point of that. But when he nails it, that to me is what I look for. Those are the little signs I look for in a great version of something. And he nails it. It's so powerful. And it's an upbeat, absolutely, I'm looking for something like a pebble to throw, not at them, but towards them. You can listen to them if you want. You've got this Franklin's Tower that to me is one of the most interesting, perfectly executed Franklin's Tower I've ever heard. And then, okay, don't worry, I won't hit them. Huh? It worked. I didn't even come close to hitting them. I'm an animal lover, and bird lover. But I got my camera back. And so you got this great Franklin's. Really, I can't say enough about this Franklin's. It's one of the most interesting versions of Franklin's, one of the best, one of my favorite ever. Franklin's ends with that kind of Slipknot ending thing, right into The Music Never Stopped. Late in the set, what are we, about the 10th song of the set now? 9th, 10th song? So we've got Music Never Stopped coming in, and it's a Music Never Stopped. I have a good friend, and we both love The Music Never Stopped. And whenever we find one, usually from 78 is when I thought they really picked it up, the spring tour of 78, when The Music Never Stopped turned into these epic, listen to Dick's Picks 18, something like that, where The Music Never Stopped had these huge epic endings. So whenever here I find one of those, we send them to each other as MP3s and just, you know, laugh about how great this one is and that one is. And this Music Never Stopped from 76 has one of the most ridiculously intense, inspired endings I've heard from 76. It's incredible. You got to hear it. We'll try and put that up on the listening party. Great version of Music Never Stopped. Then falls into a gorgeous version of Stella Blue, which was pretty rare in 76. And I said this before. I encourage you to listen to this pick on headphones and loud. Let's do it really loud through big speakers and your car really loud. But certainly do give it a shot on headphones, because the Stella Blue in particular, Jerry is singing it so emotionally. And you know, Stella Blue is a song that was written with one drummer in mind during the Bill Kreutzmann only era in 73, 72 it was debuted, recorded with one drummer, performed the first probably 100 times with one drummer. So here it's kind of brand new. Maybe they're feeling brand new about it, and they have to relearn it. But so you kind of hear the two drummers kind of feeling the way around the Stella Blue, but Jerry's singing, I think, is what saves this Stella Blue. Don't say it doesn't need saving, but what really is the highlight. And with headphones, you really hear how emotionally he's into it. Just a beautiful Stella Blue. Stella Blue kind of fades down to nothing, and then you get Bobby. You can hear the count. Around and around, and it's a powerful bring the house down around and around. One of those ones that, you know, if anybody watching got to see The Dead, which hopefully many of you did, you know those moments when, you know, it happened several times a night where the band drove the crowd into a frenzy, and that doesn't happen with many bands anymore. It's never happened with any bands, really, barely any bands drive their fans into a frenzy. And the Slipknot, the double-speed Slipknot, the Music Never Stopped ending, those things would have driven a crowd. You know, we all went to shows, or most of us did, and we were driven to that point of frenzy where you've seen the pictures, fists in the air, hands in the air, because you can't help yourself. You're just thrown into this frenzy. This Round and Round is one of them. And then they come back with U.S. Blues. I think a perfect song for 1976, because the bicentennial and all that American patriotism that was going around at the time, which hopefully is still going around, perhaps maybe not as blatantly as it was in 1976. I was pretty small in 1976, and I was living in a different country, but I remembered when I'd go to the States in 76 on family vacations, it was pretty cool. A lot of American flags and a lot of. It felt good to be American. I am American too, by the way, despite the fact that I wasn't living there at the time. So I guess that's it. Dave's Picks Volume 4. I highly recommend it. This is the show that has been on the very top of my lists for a long time. For whatever reason, it's got nudged out by this or that, and it's good to finally get it out there. I feel that way generally. Whenever we put something out, I feel this big sense of relief that, okay, this is now out there for everybody to enjoy. So again, well, if you're watching this, you're probably watching on Facebook or DeadNet or something. Do get it, because it probably won't be around forever. But again, I highly recommend it. It's September 24th. 1976 in Williamsburg, Virginia, and that's going to close out our 2012 Dave's Picks. We've got some great stuff planned for 2013. We're pretty much settled on the first pick of 2013. We're checking out the tapes now. Here we are in September of 2012, so we're just getting rolling on that. That would be Volume 5, the first one of 2013. Volume 6, not there yet, but we've got this really good idea. We've got some very exciting news about what could be Volume 6, but again, I'm getting way ahead of myself, probably about 6 months ahead of myself. So we'll get out there some other time. Oh, I might turn the camera when I go to shut it off, because Mount Baker is right over there. Mount Baker, named after Josephine Baker. She used to give free concerts on the... no, it wasn't named after Josephine Baker. But if you believe that, got a bridge. So anyhow, Dave's Picks Volume 4. I really would like to say thank you for well, staying this long. I know it's not easy, maybe not even that enjoyable, but thanks for hanging out for 2012. Again, 2013 is, I think, going to be a better year, and which isn't to say I'm not satisfied with how 2012 has gone. I'm very satisfied with it. It's been a very good time putting these Dave's Picks together. But 2013, we've got some, like I say, I'm getting way ahead. We've got some very, very exciting stuff planned or not planned in 2013. And outside of the Dave's Picks, we've got some very exciting plans. But more on that later. Stay tuned to these little Seaside videos. Thanks for watching and listening. And again, Dave's Picks Volume 4 out now, I guess. If this video is being played, you can get it now. Don't miss out, because this is a good one. You'll like it. Thanks.